On March 8, 2014, a commercial airliner carrying 239 people disappeared. It triggered the largest and most expensive search operation the world had ever seen, yet the main wreckage has never been found. The aircraft was a Boeing 777-200ER, operated by Malaysia Airlines and registered as 9M MRO. It was a reliable airframe with a clean safety record and over 53,000 hours in the air. The flight was scheduled for a standard red-eye route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. On board were 227 passengers and 12 crew members, commanded by highly experienced Captain Zahari Adman Shah and First Officer Farik Abdul Hamid. Every procedure leading up to takeoff was completely standard. The weather was clear, the crew was certified, and the aircraft was functioning perfectly. Yet within hours, it would become a ghost ship. Flight 370 departed Kuala Lumpur at 0035 local time. For the first 40 minutes, the flight proceeded exactly according to schedule. At 0119, as the plane approached Vietnamese airspace, the cockpit delivered a routine sign-off to Malaysian Air Traffic Control. "Good night, Malaysian 370. This radar map tracks the flight out of Kuala Lumpur. 2 minutes after that final verbal sign-off, as the plane reached navigational waypoint Igari, the aircraft's mode as transponder stopped functioning. The civilian radar ping marking its location simply blinks out. Within this same window, the aircraft's secondary automated reporting system, connected to the ACARS network, also ceased transmitting data back to the ground. This sudden silence resulted from a complete severing of civilian tracking capabilities. While the cockpit had gone dark to air traffic control, the aircraft remained airborne. While civilian controllers stared at empty screens, the Malaysian military's primary radar was picking up raw physical reflections bouncing off the fuselage. This military radar track shows that instead of continuing north toward Beijing, Flight 370 initiated a sharp left turn, cutting back completely across the Malay Peninsula. The aircraft flew up the Strait of Malacca, rapidly fluctuating in altitude between 31,000 and 35,000 feet. It continued on this northwest trajectory until 0:22 in the morning, when it finally left military radar range. The discovery of this primary radar data forced investigators to rewrite their timeline. It proved the Boeing 777 was actively flying hundreds of miles off its designated course for over an hour after its final radio transmission. The only remaining thread connecting the plane to the outside world belonged to Inmarsat, a British satellite communications company. The aircraft's satellite data unit was programmed to automatically check in or handshake with their network every hour. The system was online. Ground control attempted 2 satellite phone calls to the cockpit, one at 0239 and another at 0713. The system connected, but the calls went entirely unanswered. The final signal from the aircraft came at 0819. Unlike the routine hourly check-ins, this was a partial handshake initiated by the aircraft itself, unprovoked by the ground station. This orbital diagram illustrates the metadata engineers used to locate the plane. They analyzed the burst time offset, the exact microsecond it took a signal to travel between the plane and the satellite, to calculate distance. Then, they used burst frequency offset to measure the Doppler shift of those signals, determining the aircraft's speed and relative heading. By combining these two mathematical models, they traced the plane's path. The data indicated the flight turned south and continued flying for roughly 6 hours, placing its final location deep in the southern Indian Ocean. Traditional aviation tracking failed to locate Flight 370. Investigators had to rely entirely on the forensic analysis of a few unintended automated network pings to find where the ghost flight finally ended. The Inmarsat calculations forced a massive geographic pivot. Search efforts abandoned the South China Sea and relocated thousands of miles south into some of the most remote and hostile waters on Earth. An international coalition deployed dozens of ships and advanced maritime patrol aircraft to scour millions of square kilometers of the ocean surface. It took over a year for the ocean to yield physical evidence. Between 2015 and 2016, several pieces of marine debris, including a distinctive wing flaperon, began washing ashore on islands in the western Indian Ocean. It was the first physical confirmation of the aircraft's oceanic end. Armed with this confirmation, organizations like the Joint Agency Coordination Center and the private firm Ocean Infinity launched highly technical underwater sonar sweeps. They dragged sensors across the freezing, mountainous seafloor for years. While the scattered debris verified the plane went down in the Indian Ocean, the targeted underwater searches failed to locate the main fuselage. The official investigation established a rigid set of facts. The aircraft deviated from its route, its communication systems were disabled, and it flew for hours before hitting the water. Beyond those facts lies deep speculation. One prominent theory suggests a deliberate murder-suicide by the captain, pointing to his extensive experience and similar routes recovered from his home flight simulator. A competing theory points to a catastrophic mechanical failure, resulting in rapid depressurization. In this scenario, the crew and passengers succumbed to hypoxia, leaving the plane to fly on autopilot until its fuel was exhausted. Others scrutinized the passenger manifest and cargo hold, noting the presence of 2 individuals traveling on stolen passports, though extensive background checks yielded no links to terrorism. Investigators successfully traced the physical journey of the aircraft using satellite math and radar echoes. Yet, no forensic data has been able to establish the human motives or mechanical failures that initiated that journey. The loss of 239 lives left hundreds of families waiting at destination terminals for a flight that would never arrive. For years, they have demanded transparency and answers that the evidence simply cannot provide. The tragedy catalyzed major industry reforms, including new global requirements for aircraft tracking and the extension of flight recorder battery lives. But the depths of the southern Indian Ocean continue to conceal the main wreckage. Without the flight recorders, the final moments of the passengers and crew remain sealed under miles of water. While MH370 fundamentally reformed global aviation safety protocols, its disappearance remains the greatest and most agonizing unsolved mystery in modern aviation history.